Good morning. Welcome to Sunday School with New Life Church of Orlando, 3311 North Powers Drive, Orlando, Florida. Bishop Derek W. Hutchins is our pastor. I'm Ruthie Warren. Today is Sunday, January 10th, 2021. Happy New Year once again. Our studies are coming from Union Gospel Press, Christian Life series. And our studies, of course, our theme for the quarter is preparation of Jesus' disciples. Now, let me kind of bring you up to date. We've observed 5 disciples. And let me just tell you, last week, our lesson was the first miracle. Jesus changed the water to wine at Canaan. So today, we're up to the 5th miracle. Let me just kind of bring you up. Our lesson is in 3 outlines: leaving without Jesus, desperately needing Jesus, and gladly accepting Jesus. The subject of our lesson is Jesus walks on water. St. John, the 6th chapter, verses 15 through 21. And of course, in this unit, we are getting to know Jesus. We are his disciples, the sheep of his pasture, the followers of Christ. Last week, again, we talked about the first miracle, chapter 2. In chapter 3, we talked about Nicodemus getting some information on the new birth. You must be born again. Chapter 4, Jesus meets the Samaritan woman and the Samaritans, and he speaks to them. He lets them know that he is the Christ, the Savior of the world. Chapter 5 is a powerful chapter. I'm just bringing you up to date. Jesus meets a certain man with an infirmity for 38 years at the pool of Bethesda, and he heals him. Now, I said all of that to let you know that Jesus' popularity is spreading. It's increasing. Therefore, the Jewish leaders sought the more to kill him. Chapter 6 is where we are today, and we are just leaving the miracle of feeding the 5,000 with 2 fish and 5 barley loaves. Of course, this was at the Sea of Galilee. Now, because of Jesus' popularity, and because of the miracles that he was performing, the multitude wanted to press upon him to become their king. They had heard about the promised Messiah, the deliverer, and so now acknowledging Jesus as that, they were ready to crown him King of Kings. Let's go to our lesson today, because that was not Jesus' purpose for coming. Outline number 1, Jesus leaves without the disciples. Let's read it. Verses 15 through 17. When Jesus therefore perceived that they would come and take him by force to make him a king, he departed again into a mountain himself alone. And we all know that Jesus went there to pray. And when evening was now come, his disciples went down unto the sea and entered into a ship and went over the sea toward Capernaum. And it was now dark, and Jesus was not come to them. And it was said that it was about 3 o'clock, between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the morning when this took place. The response from those in the group was that Jesus was that prophet that was prophesied, and they thought him to be a political and military leader that would help them to get from under the Roman dominion. Their intention was to use their power in numbers, 5,000 or more, to force him to accept their kingship. There were two problems with that. One, that wasn't Jesus' purpose for coming. And two, it was not time for him to arrive into his final ministry. The disciples departed separately. Jesus went up the mountain to pray, as I foresaid. He was about to reveal himself to them in a new manifestation of his power over nature. Therefore, he had been interacting in public ministry heretofore. Now he would concentrate on teaching the disciples. Walking on water would be the fifth miracle recorded by John. Let's read the second outline. Desperately needing Jesus. Remember now, the disciples are in the ship. And the sea arose by reason of a great wind that blew. So when they had rowed about 25 furlongs, they see Jesus walking on the sea and drawing nigh unto the ship, and they were afraid. Now remember, the other Gospels, Mark and Matthew, also record this miracle, and they include some details that are not here in the book of John. As the ship was going forward and the winds were blowing, violent winds, winds that could potentially sink the boat or the ship, it was a life-threatening situation. The disciples needed help, and they knew Jesus could help them if he were there. But Jesus had left them alone, but told them to come and follow where he was going, to save them from the crowd that would probably press them as well as himself to make him a king. The disciples were terribly fearful at this point. They had rowed about 3 or 4 miles out. I can imagine that they were tired, and they were now in the midst of the sea. The waves were tossed in the boat here and there. As they kept roaring 4 or 5 miles, they were probably tired. And with the wind against them, they were not making any progress. When they saw this image on the water, it was Jesus. Jesus calmed their fears once they realized it was him. So let's read this third outline, verses 20 and 21. But Jesus said unto them, "It is I," a voice across the water. "Be not afraid." Then they willingly received him into the ship, and immediately the ship was at the land whither they went. They had made it across to the other side. So here you see John has left out quite a bit of detail. Peter walking on the water. When Jesus identified himself, he was reassuring the disciples of his awareness of their situation and his willingness to help them. 1 Peter 5, verses 6 and 7, casting all your cares upon him, for he cares for you. As soon as they recognized Jesus, they willingly received him. The miracle on the sea actually encompasses 4 different miracles. First, Jesus walks on the sea, had never been done before. Peter walks on the sea, had never been done before. Jesus revealed his mastery over nature, the winds and the waves. Peace be still. Number 3. And fourth, he conquers time and space. For here they were there, and in the next instance they were on the shore. So the miracles, as recorded in John, regarding Jesus walks on the water. Philippians 4:6-7, be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, make your requests known unto him, unto God. Okay, seems like a simple lesson. Let's conclude it. The purpose of the lesson is for us to understand what was involved with Jesus walking on the water as well as Peter, so that we can understand the better, so we can focus on Jesus, focus on our cares toward him, so that we can rely on him to bring it to pass. In our situations, focus on Jesus. Focus on his presence. Help us to build our character to conform to what we have learned in this lesson about Jesus. Now let's go a bit further. We may relate this storm to the storms of life we all encounter. Any situation that arises beyond our control with no apparent resolution becomes a little storm for us. When we are in life storms, as were the disciples, we often feel alone and maybe even forsaken by God. But as we focus on the circumstances around us, there may appear to be no solution or escape. But listen to me. No fear this year in 2021. Adopt that, won't you? No fear this year in 2021. Even though we have been obedient to the Lord and have done things his way, we sometimes find ourselves in frightening circumstances, storms, literally storms. Sometimes God is testing us in order to help us to grow spiritually. Let's always examine our hearts earnestly to see what's going on. When we think of the storms in our lives, we must realize that sometimes they've been caused by what we have done. As Grandma used to say, you brought it on yourself. In those cases, we might need to make some things differently. We might need to make some things right in order to calm the storm. Sometimes, however, the storms are not our fault, but we still don't seem to progress. Jesus appears to us through the haze of our storm to remind us that he is always aware of our need and he's always able to deliver us, to come see us through our storm. It is difficult for us to be cheerful during life's stormy times, but it's not impossible, because we know that God is in control. Again, casting all our cares upon him, for he cares for us. Our confidence and our familiarity with Jesus can help us overcome any fears we may have. Listen, Jesus calms our storms and our fears. Isaiah 43:2, listen to this. But now, thus saith the Lord that created thee, created you, and he that formed thee, formed you. Fear not the word of the Lord, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. because you are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the floods, through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When thou walkest through the fire, these are some heavy storms, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. The storms of life, Jesus is always there. In closing, listen to Douglas Miller. Though the storms keep on raging in my life, for storms will come, and sometimes it's hard to tell the night from day, still that hope that lies within is reassured as I keep my eyes upon the distant shore. Focus on Jesus. I know he will safely lead me to that perfect place that he has prepared for me, deliverance out of it. But if the storms don't cease, not when I think they should, and if the winds keep blowing in my life, turbulence, one thing after another, my soul has been anchored in the Lord. I know in who I believe. In every storm, because storms will come, listen, in every storm, look for the miracle. No fear this year. God bless you. I'll see you next week.